state. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, so when I got the call, obviously I'd be here. Now, of course, the news agencies are saying, well, why are you here, Del? I said, well, frankly, I'd be anywhere where they try to take the freedom of American citizens away. And so here we are. It's really unfortunate that it's happening in my home state, but it had to happen somewhere because we need to be waking up, and that's what's happening. Thank you very much to the health department. Now, I want to take a moment because there can be a lot of passion and energy around this, and there's a lot more than just passion. There's actually science that has to take place, right? We have to understand the science, and since we're next to this building of people that seem to think they understand the science, I want to go through the science a little bit, so if you can open your windows over there, I want to make an assumption right now. My belief is that for the most part, people are good. I don't really like to believe in evil, and I don't think these people in this building are evil. Evil would mean that they're lying to you about the truth about vaccines and what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that really they're just uneducated. Okay? So let me help educate this health department on why this vaccine mandate is the most ridiculous and dangerous thing to ever take place. Now, first of all, you need to understand, because I have a law firm that I work with, and we've sued and won against the National Institute of Health, Health and Human Services, the CDC, the FDA. So when people say, Del Bigtree spreads misinformation, I like to say, really? You ought to try winning lawsuits against the government using misinformation. But here's what you need to know, and why they think they can pass laws like this. We have constitutional rights. We have the right to bodily integrity. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have the right to religious beliefs and medical choices. Those are given to us by who? God! That's right, not by the Constitution. The Constitution protects the rights given to us by God. In fact, the only thing the Constitution actually controls is the government, to keep them from trying to get in the way of our God-given rights. Now, when it comes to our God-given rights in this fantastic nation founded by some real heroes, our founding fathers, they recognize that there may be moments where we might have to impinge upon those rights. In rare moments during a serious emergency to get everybody aligned, we may need to make a law to make that happen. So when they have to make those laws, there are actually rules to what would make a law like that legal or not. The number one rule is this: if we're going to write a law that impinges on your God-given constitutional rights, that law must remedy the situation. In this case, this law to mandate a vaccine on anybody, the vaccine has got to stop this disease and stop this pandemic in its tracks. If it cannot do that, it is an illegal law. Number two, the second rule is if it does pass that requirement and it can remedy the situation, then it must do so in the least damaging way to your constitutional rights, meaning it has the least effect on your constitutional rights. And the third rule is that it has to be delivered equally to every citizen in the United States of America. So only affecting employees in a business that has 100 employees is not an equal distribution of the law across America. Therefore, it is illegal. But now let's deal with the most important part. The first rule. Does this law, or any law coming from Joe Biden, the mandate of this vaccine, remedy the problem? No. Why? Because this vaccine cannot stop infection. Therefore, it cannot stop transmission. Therefore, it will never, ever achieve herd immunity. Fact, full stop, end of story. They now admit that the only thing this vaccine can do is reduce your symptoms, reduce the symptomatic disease. Now, I want to be clear with you, because there's a word game that's been going on for the last year around this vaccine. We all heard that it was 95% effective. 95% effective. And that's exactly the right question. 95% effective at doing what? I saw Chris Cuomo on CNN. And Chris Cuomo asked a very important question to Tony Fauci. Right when the vaccine came out, he said, so this vaccine is 95% effective at stopping the infection, SARS-CoV-2. And Tony Fauci said, that's right, it's 95% effective at stopping the disease COVID-19. Liar. You hear what just happened there? SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 are not the same thing. SARS-CoV-2 is the infection. COVID-19 is the symptomatic expression of that infection. So all the vaccine was ever designed to do was reduce the symptomatic expression of COVID-19, the disease. Remember AIDS? It was like HIV is the infection, AIDS is the disease. And so now under these circumstances, you must recognize that even by their own definition, what they are achieving, if it even does that. I'm not even sure it does stop their symptoms, but let's go ahead and give it to them and follow that down the road. I hope you're listening to this in the health department right now. If the only thing the vaccine does is reduce your symptoms, what is it turning you into? An asymptomatic carrier. The big enemy we've been hearing about for the last year is the danger of the asymptomatic carrier. And so what this vaccine apparently is supposed to do is hide your symptoms. So that when you get infected, and you most surely will get infected, you will be walking around without any symptoms, feeling great, kissing the baby that was just born into your family, going into your business and spewing and spitting at the coffee table and tea room, and giving everybody COVID-19 or the infection known as SARS-CoV-2. That's a fact, if it does what they said it does. Meanwhile, an unvaccinated person will catch SARS-CoV-2, probably feel like crap, like they do on every other cold or flu they've had, and stay home. They'll stay home, treat themselves with probably some ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine because they know that it works. And then in about 7 days, they'll come out and they'll be perfectly healthy, and they will have something that the vaccinated person will never have. Lifelong, naturally acquired immunity. Well, let me just not say lifelong. We only know that the people that had SARS coronavirus back in the late 1990s and 2000s, they're still immune. So going on that, maybe it's not their whole lifetime, just 20 years so far. And everybody we've tested in Israel and around the world that had the COVID-19 and had the symptoms back in the beginning of this, they're still immune. Every single study shows us that the naturally immune are far healthier, 6 to 7 times. The rate of reinfection out of Israel is said to be less than 1%. And so now let's think about a vaccine mandate or a vaccine passport. What you're saying is the only way we get our masks off this ridiculous, total oppression of our rights to breathe God's beautiful air, the only way you're going to allow us to breathe this air is that we have to get vaccinated. Then we're free to walk around each other. But what did you do? You didn't change anything. You only vaccinated people with a product that will make so many billions of dollars, but will never protect them from the disease. Will never protect our society, but in fact will do something far, far worse.
That's it.
This vaccine is destroying our ability to get to herd immunity. These are facts, folks. And any news agency that actually wants to do some research that's watching right now, I hope you will do your research. Because if this vaccine is given to you, the only thing it does is give you specific antibody immunity. You want broad antibody immunity with a disease that keeps creating variants. You don't want to only be protected against the Alpha variant when the Delta is what is sweeping the nation. You want your body to recognize every single variant in the future. And you know who's best at doing that? Our children are the best at doing that. That's why it doesn't matter whether it's alpha or delta. Their innate immune system kicks this virus's ass every day and Sunday. And for those health department people that don't understand the science, and maybe I need to simplify it, let me give you a little analogy. Here's how the vaccine works. Imagine you're a scuba diver, and you go swimming in a bay in the ocean, but the bay has killer whales or orcas swimming around in there. Now, on a very rare occasion, a killer whale has been known to attack the scuba diver, but it's really rare. What we do know attacks scuba divers are great white sharks. But great white sharks do not outcompete in this bay. They are not there because killer whales kill great white sharks. Killer whales there outcompete in the situation. This is how viruses work. We once had an alpha version of SARS coronavirus. It was milder and less infective, but it was outcompeting the Delta and the Lambda and all the other more deadly strains. But then in our infinite wisdom as a scuba diver, we say, you know what? I'm still really worried about that rare orca that might kill me, so I'm going to create a weapon that kills all the killer whales. And so we go in and kill all the killer whales. Well, what happens? Now the great white sharks come into the bay because they have no competitor. And now the major strain or the winning competitor is the great white shark, and now it's deadly to walk around and swim in that water. And there's an even bigger problem. The gun or the weapon that I made only kills great white sharks. I mean, only kills the killer whales or the orcas. It cannot kill a great white shark. And so now I'm firing away and we're just being eaten alive. Now this may only be a problem if there's only one vaccinated person or one scuba diver killing a few killer whales in his bay. But what happens when we decide to take every swimmer and every boat and every human near an ocean and kill every single killer whale so that the only thing left is the far more deadly great white shark? That is what this vaccine is doing. It is eliminating the virus we can handle, the one we can neutralize, and is slowly but surely creating a virus that will one day outsmart the vaccine and then become vaccine resistant and therefore start wiping out gigantic parts of our population. Right. That is what we are risking. And there are multiple scientists now speaking out about it. Geert Vanden Bosch, who worked for Gavi and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And guess who's joined his team? Dr. Robert Malone. That's right. Inventor of the mRNA vaccine is now saying, I'm with Geert. You may be risking the future of our species by using the vaccine this way. They are putting us at risk. They are making a huge mistake. And though they want to say that we are selfish because we don't want to vaccinate, the truth is you are the heroes. You are the only chance that we have. Because if the vaccine does what it says it does, the only thing it does is selfishly protect you and hide your symptoms, but you will spread it to every baby and every child and every human being around you, and you will never be able to neutralize it, and thereby putting everyone around you at risk. Meanwhile, these heroes here, you, the unvaccinated, you will catch this illness. You will mount a full natural immune response that can neutralize this virus and kill it dead on contact. You will never be able to catch it again. Doesn't matter if it's Delta or Lambda or Mu. Honestly, that one's coming. Be afraid. Be very afraid. I'm trying to figure out rhymes to go with it because it's really hard to scare people of something called Mu. But that is the fact. The health department right here wants to celebrate those that only protect themselves and spread it to everyone else. Celebrating the fact that there are brave individuals that do crazy things like eat organic food, and drink crystal clear spring water, and take vitamins like zinc and quercetin. And then if things get really bad, they go to the science and recognize the thousands of studies and tens of thousands of people that have used ivermectin in studies all around the world. In studies all around the world, all put together, see an 85% reduction in hospitalization and deaths when using ivermectin. Similarly with hydroxychloroquine. Yet these health departments are denying the use of those products in your hospitals right now. No, they're using a failed Ebola drug, remdesivir, that causes kidney failure. But they won't even give it to you when you first show up. No. Think about this. I mean, honestly, it's such a joke if it wasn't so deadly. That now, for the first time in America, for the first time, we have found a disease where in every other situation that we encounter, early treatment is the answer. It doesn't matter if it's cancer, it doesn't matter if it's the flu, a cold, whatever it is, the sooner you find it, the sooner you recognize it and begin treatment, the sooner you can stop it. But not with COVID, apparently. No, this is the one situation when you go to the people you trust at the health department, you go into your hospitals and they test you and say, yeah, you are testing positive for COVID, but here's the deal. Your oxygen level isn't low enough. You're not in critical condition yet, so just go home with nothing. Go home, wait till your lips turn blue. When you're struggling, really struggling to breathe, come into our hospital. We'll give you a failed Ebola drug that causes kidney failure. We'll give you propofol, which killed Michael Jackson, to put you into a coma. And then we will ram a ventilator into your mouth and down your throat, where you have a 9 out of 10 chance of dying. So for every news agency out there that likes to say, Del, you're putting people at risk, no. No, Tony Fauci, the people inside this health department, Joe Biden, and anybody pushing these mandates and taking away your right to proven treatments, they are the ones murdering us in hospitals. You are murderers. Hydroxychloroquine has been used for 70 years and been proven to be safe. Ivermectin for decades and won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 2015. Not as a horse deworming pill, by the way. For humans. Yet they are telling us that what we have to do is take a product that has been through no safety trial. Bailed out of the safety trial just weeks after the second dose in the phase 3 trials. So there's no understanding of the long-term safety issues yet. They will say to you, we don't trust ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine because we're worried about the safety profile. A successful safety profile. Do you realize that every single attempt at a coronavirus vaccine for the last 20 years was a total failure? I know most of you watch The High Wire, so I'm being redundant. For those of you that don't, and for the news agencies out there that followed, whatever Tony Fauci says and never check him on anything because your job's the easiest job in journalism there is. Just get someone to tell you what you need to hear and your job is done. I get called all the time by the New York Times, Daily Mail, it doesn't matter. And they say, you're spreading misinformation. It's like, that is ridiculous. I share all of my information. I share all my data. And they'll say to me things like, well, they say that that's not true. Who, the pharmaceutical industry? The pharmaceutical industry says that I'm wrong about the safety profile of this vaccine? In fact, modern journalism would be awesome. Had we had Richard Nixon now, all that CNN and Fox and MSNBC would do is they say, well, we talked to Richard Nixon and he said he didn't tap any phones. Well, there you go. End of story. Go home, get a beer, hang out, great work. Nice job, news agencies. How about you keep researching, which is what we've been doing. So when it comes down to 20-year history, which is what we looked into, what happened with this vaccine? How did we get here? Was it rushed? How long was it in play? For 20 years, they attempted to make a coronavirus vaccine and had the exact same result. Let me explain it to you. All of the different pharmaceutical companies decided after SARS coronavirus was deadly, but they weren't able to make it really deadly by vaccinating everybody with a failed product and then making it last for years and years and years. They weren't ready to do that yet. Instead, they said, well, we better have a vaccine for the future. And so every drug company went about trying to make a vaccine, and then every time they went into animal trials, didn't matter if it was a rat, a macaque, monkey, or even a cat, they would inject the vaccine into the animals. And it looked like it was safe. No, it didn't die. It lived. The animals were safe. The vaccine's great. It's safe. Then they would go to the next step. They would draw the blood on the animals. And they saw robust antibody production. They would say, wow, awesome. We got a successful vaccine. They're clinking their champagne glasses in the laboratories. Probably forgetting to put their gloves back on and then carrying the virus right out of the laboratory, but that's a different story. But then animal trials go one step further than human trials usually do for ethical reasons. It's called a challenge study. And so what they do is they basically inject the virus into the animals to see how the vaccine works, to see how effective it is, how efficient it is. And to their surprise, paradoxically, Dr. Peter Hotez described it from Baylor College, instead of the antibodies protecting the animal, they seem to help the virus penetrate the cells and proliferate through the body, causing a total override meltdown of the immune system called a cytokine storm, resulting in Th2 immunopathology in the lungs, meaning the animal couldn't breathe, leading to organ failure, and in most cases, death. That is the entire history of the coronavirus vaccine prior to Donald Trump's warp speed. And so we looked into that. It's pretty terrifying. And our question was, with this new vaccine that you're now warp speeding, did you overcome that little pesky side effect called death? And what we found is that the trials all went out of their way to avoid even asking the question. And the emergency use authorization written by the FDA says very clearly, when it comes to the issue of disease enhancement, our data is unable to calculate whether or not this will be an issue. But don't worry. We should probably do more clinical trials and studies when? After the vaccine is fully authorized. That's what it says right in the EUA. Wait a minute. You're going to finally study the deadly side effects of all of your animal trials after we've all been given the product? I don't know. Call me crazy. That might be a little bit too late. Now let me be perfectly clear because I don't like misinformation out there. The mRNA vaccine technology was never one of those ones that failed in every single animal trial ever done. No. It's so brand new that vaccine has never ever been injected into a single animal ever. The first animals to ever receive this vaccine is us. That's right. We are the trial animals for a brand new technology that has never been attempted before. Now the health department and your county commissions and President Joe Biden wants you to rely on the success of the vaccine program before as a reason they can mandate this one on you now. But this is nothing like those vaccines that injected some form of a bacteria or a virus into your arm, whether it was, attenuated or however you go about it, and then your body makes antibodies to attack and remembers that experience so that you're protected in the future. Never lifelong like natural immunity. There has never, let me make this clear, never been a vaccine while attempting to mimic your God-given immune system. They've never achieved a vaccine that gives you lifelong immunity like catching the natural infection. But when they did that, and when they looked at that, that is how it worked. Now comes mRNA vaccine technology. Here's how this works. This isn't a virus at all. No, this is simply like a computer code. An mRNA message that's usually sent from your DNA to your cells to tell your cells how to protect your body. In some ways, you can imagine this is the God vaccine. This enters in where God usually does to tell your body and your immune system how to treat you so that you can survive whatever situation you're in. So we have a fake message, a message made in China, delivered by China. Think about this, that when this virus started coming to America, Moderna and Pfizer reached out to China, last I checked was an enemy of the United States of America, and said, can you please let us know what is, flying around in China there? They said, yes, take this and inject this into every one of your citizens. That's what they did. And Moderna said, great, thank you. Thank you, China. We're going to, without testing it, inject it into every American alive. Great idea. But what does this message do? This message goes to your cells. And it enters your cells and teaches your cells how to become a virus manufacturing plant. In fact, more specifically, a deadly spike protein, the bioweapon of this virus, manufacture that in your cells and start producing it. And not by the 5 or tens of thousands you might get in a natural infection, maybe even 1 million. No, they brag that this vaccine could create up to 4 billion to 4 trillion spike proteins inside of your body, coming from your own cells. Anyone see a problem with turning your own cells into the enemy of your immune system? So that your immune system starts attacking your own cells? There's a definition for that. Autoimmunity. We have no idea what kind of autoimmunity this is going to create because we didn't watch it long enough. We'll see how it affects all of you and your children. But it gets even worse. The mRNA vaccine technology was failing. It was failing because for some reason, your God-given immune system hated this mRNA message coming into your body. Saw it as an enemy to your immune system, so your immune system attacked it and killed it dead before it could get to the cells. And so then 2 genius scientists working at this for years and years said, wait a minute, we've got to figure out a way to get this past the immune system of the body. So what did they do? They figured out a way to manipulate the mRNA code so that it turns off something called your toll-like receptors. Now, I know I'm getting the weeds, and for those of you that, might be having a problem with this, remember, I'm trying to help the health department over here understand science. It's something called toll-like receptors, everybody. So your toll-like receptors are like the watchmen. They're the gatekeepers for every one of your macrophages, your immune cells, and what they attack. They're the ones that are always studying everything in your body to see what is self and what is not self. And anything not self must die, whether it's cancer or varicella, chickenpox, which can turn into shingles. All of the diseases that your body is constantly in contact with. What's keeping that beautiful, magical dance alive inside of you, of the viruses and bacteria, is being managed by these brilliant toll-like receptors. These geniuses decided that their vaccine was so important that would never stop infection transmission, but still you'll need it, that they put asleep, turned off your toll-like receptors, the watchmen of your immune system. Now, we just broke this story about 4 weeks ago because it's brand new that we're finding this out. But just in the middle of the summer, I had some health issues, and I was in a clinic with a good friend of mine who treats cancer. And he said to me there, Del, I don't know what's going on, but all of our cases of remission in cancer, we track them. And all of a sudden, all of these people are coming out of remission, and they have this aggressive cancer that is moving so fast that many times we can't even help them. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, he said. So I started asking them, by chance, did you get that COVID-19 vaccine? And he said, every time I asked, they said yes. He said, I don't know what this vaccine does, Del, but we are seeing cancers like we have never seen it before. Since that moment, over a dozen oncologists have told me the exact same thing. We've had whistleblowers on our show describing this issue. Another thing that alluded us to the fact that we might be seeing this is the fact that it's about to become a known side effect of the vaccine, shingles. Shingles may be listed on the vaccine itself that the vaccine causes shingles. Well, why would it cause shingles? There's no shingles in this vaccine. Because if you turn off your immune system, you turn off your toll-like receptors, There is a battle constantly going on against the chickenpox virus you had as a kid, hopefully. Maybe you got vaccinated, not as effective, but that's your problem, not mine. And so it's fighting this battle. Well, what happens when those twilight receptors, your immune system stops working altogether? Now every virus, every bacteria that's in your body is now making you vulnerable. And every cancer, folks, many, in fact, I would say most of the world-renowned scientists that are not receiving money from pharma right now, that are working at universities, are predicting the greatest human die-off in the history of mankind.
It's planned.
Now, yes, it's hypothetical. Let's be clear. There's a difference between, a hypothetical or theory and a fact. In this case, it's only time. The needed time. The time that should have been taken in a controlled study where we watched a group of people receive this vaccine and a group in a placebo group, and we followed them for at least 5 years, but with a vaccine that is manipulating your DNA, manipulating the cells of your body, and the fact that Pfizer said we don't want any of our participants making love or having sex while having this trial. What? Wait a minute, what are they worried about? The same thing I'm worried about. We have had drugs, like a drug that was helping mothers with morning sickness, that made it so their own daughters could never give birth. There are times in medicine where we make a mistake that doesn't perhaps affect us directly, but affects generations into the future. Of all the technologies that have ever been, one that is turning your cells into a virus manufacturing plant, turning off your toll-like receptors in your immune system, that one should have been tested for a really long time. And let me be clear. Maybe this technology could lead to being some advancement in society that really does protect people in the future. I'm not against science. But we cannot rush the science. We cannot take brand new technologies, pour billions of dollars into them, and think we just hope because it's a new technology, it won't kill the humans the way it killed all of the animals in the animal trials. This isn't a religion. We don't work on faith. We don't move forward on assumptions. We are in a very, very dangerous time now. You are going to have to put up with whatever you have to put up with. Don't let them force a mask on you and then say, I'll take your mask off if you bend over and let me kill you. That is not how this works. You've got to stand your ground. Thomas Jefferson said, if a law is unjust, not only do you have the right to disobey it, you are obligated to do so. We've been mandated by God. We've been mandated by our founding fathers to stand up for the greatest experiment in human history, the American dream. Lastly, my dad and my mom who were here, my dad's a minister, and I grew up. I remember I was kind of obsessed with several stories, and one obviously being the creation story. And as the story goes, God created us in the image and likeness of himself.
Amen.
And said, you have dominion over all the earth, over all the animals and the plants, they're yours. I have given you everything. I have made a perfect world for you. I only have one rule. One. Do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, this was confusing as a kid. I would say to my dad, Dad, I don't understand. I mean, don't we want to have knowledge of good and evil? He'd say, well, it'll make more sense as you get older. I'm not sure he even knew what it meant, but that's where it was at. But now as I sit in this moment and I watch what's taking place, it is becoming clear what that one rule was all about. Don't ever become so arrogant that you have any idea what good and evil is. Don't ever become so arrogant that you think you can judge your neighbor and make them do something that you believe in because they don't. That is not your job. Don't ever become so arrogant that you think you can manipulate one of the millions and billions of viruses that are teeming in your intestines right now as we speak? Do you realize you have millions and billions of viruses and bacteria on your arms and hands right now, dancing in a perfect balance, keeping you alive? Something is making that orchestration work in your favor, yet you are spraying and covering yourself in antibacterial soaps, absolutely messing with this system. And the vaccine is going to go in and try and kill one of the millions and billions of viruses because it knows better, with a product that just turned off your God-given immune system. There is a war going on now. It is not between science and religion. There are two religions going on here. And one of them is a little bit more like a cult. One of them thinks that we can be more knowledgeable than God. We can make products that say our vaccine is better than your immune system, therefore we're turning it off. We are going to mess with this virus. And then we are surprised when we see that it becomes more and more deadly and getting more and more out of our control. What was the end of this? He comes into Eden, and Adam and Eve are there, and they're wearing a mask. And he looks at them and he said, "Who told you you needed to wear a mask to live on this beautiful planet I've created? Who told you you couldn't breathe this air?" They said, "We were made very afraid by CNN and MSNBC Fox. And they told us that we weren't perfect. They told us we were going to die, and we believed them." And he said, "If you listen to them, you will surely die. I am the Lord thy God, and thou shalt have no other gods before me." We are the children of God. We are the light of the world. We are the future of our species. And we are going to stand because we live in the greatest country in the world. We are the beacon of light to the world. And we will not go to sleep. We will not be afraid. Because yea, though we are walking now through the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. Say it again. We fear no evil. One more time. We fear no evil. And so it is. I love you.
Sickness. This is a war on tradition. This is a war on religion. This children, they give you